everybody else in the room right now. We have folks in the waiting room that I just am allowing in the room
Did you
right
have a chance to shoot a message to the board? Because I can do that real quick.
No, I didn't. I'm
I
sorry.
will do that. Nope, that's all right. I'll do it really quick.
Yeah, I have a sick kiddo today,
Oh
actually.
no,
Yeah, it's okay.
that doesn't help.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So. Well, hi everyone. Good afternoon as of a minute ago. Welcome everyone to our Growing Organic Expertise workshop. We are so thrilled to have you on. Um, what I'll do here, I'll give it a couple more minutes and we'll allow for more people to trickle in. Um, as we did have quite a few RSVPs for this session.
Good.
Yeah, so my name is Olga Redding, for those of you who don't know me, and I am in charge of Iowa Organic Association Education and Outreach Program. And I am the one basically handling these growing organic expertise workshops, and any other webinars and workshops that you will be seeing moving forward are handled by me. So if you have any suggestions or any things you'd like to see coming up from us that would be of interest to you, please don't hesitate to let me know. You can call me or reach me by email. My email is olga@iowaorganic.org. So what I will do, you guys, is I'll show you the agenda first and foremost, so you guys can kind of have an idea of what we are doing today. And then after that, I will do some introductions. So the agenda is right here. So for our welcome remarks, it will just be me. Roz, our executive director, will be popping in and out today. So it'll just be me for today. And we'll do introductions through about 12:15. And at 12:15, I will talk about the USDA organic history and background. After that, at 12:45, Megan Thomas, that you see with the beautiful, cool palm tree as her background, will talk about organic. Well, actually, scratch that. 12:45, it's Matt Miller, and he'll talk about organic regulations and certification overview. Then at 1:15, we will take a break for about 15 minutes, give or take. At around 1:30, Megan Thomas with Mercaris will talk about organic agronomics. And finally, we'll wrap up our workshop today with an organic farmer panel. And we will have Scott Wiedemeyer from Maynard, Iowa, and Wayne Wangness from Decorah, Iowa, that will talk about their organic farming and their experiences. And well, you'll hear more from them. We will allow for about 10 minutes, give or take, for Q&A. So if there are any questions that pop up throughout any of the presentations today, you guys are more than welcome to use the chat box and utilize that for your questions. And what I will do is, after each presenter is done presenting, is I'll sift through the questions and we'll just kind of answer them after each presentation. So definitely don't be shy with questions. They are welcome and we're happy to see them. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing the screen. And what I'll do now is I will go ahead and ask Megan if you want to say a little bit about you and what you do. That'd be great.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Megan Thomas, and I work as an economist with Mercaris. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with us, but we're a market data service, and we also offer an online trading platform. And I have a ag background, and from my father, actually. Was born and raised in South Louisiana. on a vegetable and cattle farm. So that's how my interest in agriculture actually started. So I'm really happy to be here with you today.
Very cool. Awesome. And Scott, do you want to say a couple words? Maybe if you have the chance to show your video, that'd be great too.
Let's see. Sorry, I'm just trying to get set up here.
Oh, no worries. All good.
Born on the farm here, third generation of our farm. We milk dairy and row crop farm, certified organic since 2017, and trying to utilize cover crops and interseeded cover crops, relay cropping, and different things to achieve our sustainability plan.
Awesome. And you guys will be hearing from Scott as he is on our farmer panel today. So thank you, Scott. Matt, you joined us perfectly. If you want to say a couple words about you and what you do, that'd be great.
What do I say about?
Just your name, what you do, and
I'm Matt Miller, and I worked for quite a few years for the Iowa Department of Agriculture as an organic inspector since 2004. And I don't do too many organic inspections anymore. I mainly farm organic row crops, and I have some non-organic row crops as well.
Awesome. And you guys will be hearing from Matt later today. And then I'm trying to find Wayne. Wayne, are you on? I think you are. Wayne, do you want to say a couple of words? Who you are, what you do? I'll ask to unmute.
Uh-oh.
Here, I can hear you, and then I'll also ask to start your video.
Okay. Is that gonna work?
Yep, I see you now. Yep, if you want to say hi, just a couple of words about you, who you are, what you do.
Yeah, I've been farming for quite a few years. So I have some things to share about my thoughts with regard to what I've learned over the years. We are organic, have been since 1995. And I guess I could relate that I'm the president of the board for Quality Organic Producer Cooperative, which runs Zappers, and we will be showing them a little bit later. Well, when I do it,
Yeah,
I'll show them and what they do.
awesome. Yes, Wayne will be one of our farmers on our farmer panels. You'll hear more from Wayne later. Thank you guys for your introductions. And what I'll do is, we'll go ahead and get started. There's quite a few more people trickling in, so we'll just allow everybody to jump in whenever they can. I'll go ahead and share my screen. All right, guys. So I brought some trivia along. So feel free to share your responses in the chat box. What is the #1 organic commodity in the US measured in sales? And anyone is welcome to guess. Not all at once. Tomatoes. Okay, we got tomatoes. Anyone else? Peanut. All right. Any other guesses? Milk? Vegetables? All right. Okay. All right. So good job, Matt Miller, with milk. You probably knew that. which is good. It's fine. So as you can see, you guys, milk has been number one since 2015. It has stayed number one since, and some of the other things, you know, that are also very predominant are eggs, broilers, apples, and lettuce. And as you can see, broilers and eggs switched places in 2019, and apples and lettuce stayed around the same. But yeah, milk represents $1.59 billion. So that's quite a big industry. All right. What is the number one organic field crop in the US measured in sales? Okay, not all at once. All right, we got corn, which is the right answer. It is corn, Matt. Good job, good answer. It's about $278 million, and it's a 70% change from 2016, which was $164 million. So it's growing. Okay, what state is number one in organic corn grain production, acres and bushels harvested? Okay, we got Minnesota. Anyone else?
California.
All right. Okay. Good guess. Anyone else? Iowa. Okay, Lynn. Lynn is right. It is Iowa. Iowa has about 37,000 acres of organic corn, 5 million bushels, $38 million in sales. And Minnesota is number two. So good guess there, Matt. All right. Next question is, what state is number one in organic soybean production, acres and bushels harvested? Nobody knows about soybeans? Just take a guess. All right. It's Iowa again with 22,000 acres, 864,000 bushels, with $15.5 million in sales, and Michigan is number two. Okay, so here is a slide that we just received the 2019 Certified Organic Survey, and the really exciting piece that I want to focus on is this information right here. But it shows that the total sales are 9.93 billion in organic commodity products, which is an increase of 2.37 billion, which represents around 31% from 2016. So that's a huge jump. According to the survey, there were 16,585 certified organic farms in the US last year, a 17% increase from 2016, which accounted for 5.5 million certified acres, an increase of 9% over 2016. So what that tells me is that, you know, organic agriculture is here to stay, and it's growing quickly. And so hopefully we see these numbers growing even further in the years to come. And Iowa is ranked 6th out of all the states in the country. Iowa is ranked 6th for organic production. So we are happy to be in a top 10 list. So what is organic production? This is a definition taken directly from the National Organic Program. And what they say is that it's a production system that is managed in accordance with the Organic Food Production Act to respond to site-specific conditions by integrating cultural, biological, and mechanical practices that foster cycling of resources, promote ecological balance, and conserve biodiversity. Organic agriculture's uses as a system approach. And really what that means is there's minimal use of external off-farm inputs, excludes synthetic fertilizers, synthetic pesticides, growth hormones, antibiotics, and genetically modified organisms, also known as GMOs. It's a management that maintains and enhances ecological balance, soil and water conservation and improvement, increased biodiversity of the farm and its surroundings, use of crop rotation and cover crops to recycle nutrients, build soil quality and disrupt pest weed cycles, and of course, use of biological and mechanical pest controls as a last resort. A little history on organic agriculture. So one of the first people that started this movement was Sir Albert Howard, born in 1873. And he is the father of modern composting practices, wrote an agricultural testament in the 1940s, emphasized the importance of humus, holding water in soil, and mycorrhizal soil fungi. Influenced J.I. Rodale, soil health. We'll talk about J.I. Rodale in the coming slides. And one of his famous quotes is, "The maintenance of the fertility of the soil is the first condition of any permanent system of agriculture." All right. Next, another big person in organic movement is Lady Eve Balfour. She designed a forced long-term comparison of organic and conventional agricultural methods, and she wrote The Living Soil in 1943. One of her famous quotes is, "The most frequently heard argument is that intensive chemical farming provides the only hope of feeding the expanding world population and has therefore to be accepted whether we like it or not. To me, it seems probable that the exact opposite could prove to be the case, and that it is an alternative and largely organic agriculture that will be forced upon us whether we like it or not." And we definitely like it, so we're good with that. All right. J.I. Rodale, you guys may have heard of him. If not, here's a little bit of info. He is the father of modern organic farming movement. He founded Rodale Inc. Publishing in the 1930s, and he started the Organic Farming and Gardening magazine in 1942. He purchased a farm in Pennsylvania and founded the Soil and Health Foundation in the late 40s. He fostered scientific research and study, provided the main source of information about non-chemical farming methods, and was heavily influential in the development of organic production methods. "Healthy soil, healthy food, healthy people," is his quote. And of course, J.I. Rodale's son, Robert Rodale, continued on in his father's footsteps, and he bought a 333-acre farm in Kutztown, Pennsylvania in 1972, began the farming systems trial in 1981, and longest-running organic versus conventional comparison in the United States. He introduced New Farm magazine in 1979 and coined the term regenerative organic to distinguish a kind of farming that goes beyond sustainable in 1989. So, as far as history is concerned, there was a point in time where there were so many standards and certifiers. There was no one unique body that governed the organic certification. So the Organic Foods Production Act was officially started in 1990, and it was implemented in 2002. So it took about 12 years to get everything lined up. And from 2002, we have one universal standard, organic certified. And here are some of the certification agencies that you may be familiar with. I personally am familiar with Oregon TILF as they certify my products. Brief history of the organic movement. Demand steadily increased for organic products in the 1970s, environment and consumer demand. And as I was saying, there was decentralized certification programs in the 80s. Each state had their own rules. So Congress passed the Organic Foods Production Act and asked the USDA to write the rules and regulations to explain the law to producers, handlers, and certifiers. In addition to that, the National Organic Standards Board was established to make recommendations for allowable substances in organic production and handling and to help USDA write these regulations. So the birth of the National Organic Program happened in 2002. And there is the code. You can really get into the details of it if you wish. The next slide. Right here, you can check out, it's part 205, and here's more information. But it's mandated by the Organic Foods Production Act, OFPA, administered by the USDA Agricultural Marketing Service, and defined by Agriculture Code of Regulation, part 205, how it operates and what it regulates. So more on the National Organic Standard Board. Who are these people? Well, they are appointed by the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture for a 5-year term, and they make recommendations concerning the implementation of the National Organic Program. They meet publicly twice a year, and they consist of 15 members. 4 of them own or operate an organic farming operation. 2 of them own or operate an organic handling operation. 1 owns or operates a retail establishment with significant trade in organic products. And 3 have expertise in areas of environmental protection and resource conservation. 3 represent public interest or consumer interest groups. 1 has expertise in the field of toxicology, ecology, or biochemistry. And finally, there is at least 1 USDA accredited certifying agent. So one of the most, in my opinion, useful tools is this USDA Organic Integrity Database. If you haven't been on it, definitely check it out. This database contains up-to-date and accurate information about operations that sell organic. So you can search by state and you can find all of the operations that are organic certified in the state. Increases this, database increases supply chain transparency for buyers and sellers and promotes market visibility for organic operations. And here's the website. Trends and farmer perspectives. So here is a map of the United States with, the top 9 states that produce organic. And as you can see, Iowa is number 6. California has been number 1 for a very long time. As you can see, our neighboring Wisconsin is number 2. And hopefully we can catch up with the rest of them and be in top 5 again. As far as certified organic farms in the United States, this is from the 2019 organic survey that we discussed earlier. As you can see, in Iowa, we have about 779 organic farms, in comparison to California that has 3,000 and Wisconsin that has 1,300. So organic acres under production in Iowa, well, actually, these are not organic, these are conventional. Corn, we have 14.4 million acres. Soybeans, we have 9.3 million. Wheat, we have 12,000. And certified organic corn, 38,000. certified organic soybeans 21,000 and wheat 1,300. So as you can see, a big contrast, quite a bit more conventional corn and soybeans when looking at organic corn and soybeans. So with that being said, I'll get to it in another slide, but certified organic operations in Iowa, here's a list of all different organic operations by county. Ross compiled that list for an interview. And as you can see, almost every single county in Iowa has at least one organic operation. So obviously we'd love to see that number go up to at least, in a perfect world, 5 or more, but it will take time, and we're here to help promote that and help encourage and help anyone that may be interested with resources. Organic Trade Association right here has done surveys about organic for quite a long time, and in their most recent survey regarding U.S. households purchasing organic products, they have determined that more than 82% of American homes have, purchased organic products. And as you can see, obviously the West Coast is very predominant. There's quite a bit of folks purchasing organic. And then in comparison to Iowa, about 70% of people purchase organic. So, and all of these numbers are on the rise. Trends and value. Organic sales exceed $55 billion in 2019. Which is huge. The organic agriculture is the fastest growing segment in the agriculture. So you can see the trends. They keep going up, and then you can see the total food production and the percentage. So the organic as total, the percentage keeps going up. So that's encouraging, and we hope to see more of that in the near future. So for those of you guys interested in organic markets, we do have a markets tab on our website that you are welcome to check out. It's in orange, so it's a little bit easier to see. But as of the most recent data that we could gather, conventional corn is $4.85 a bushel, where organic corn is $7.49 a bushel, which is an 155% premium. And with soybeans, conventional soybeans are $12.92 and organic are $17.97, which is 139% premium. So this is the slide that I was kind of thinking about, talking earlier, but an opportunity for Iowa farmers. We looked at the amount of conventional corn and soybean Iowa is producing versus organic corn and soybeans. So U.S. demand is relying on organic grain imports into the United States. Approximately 20% of the organic corn that is used for feed in the U.S. is actually imported. We import organic whole corn from Argentina and cracked corn from Turkey. And then approximately 70% of the organic soybeans and organic soybean meal is consumed in the United States is imported. So most of the imports that make their way into the US are exported from India. So of course, with this slide, the opportunity for Iowa is to grow our own organic corn and soybeans, so we don't have to keep importing all of these organic corn and soybeans from all these other countries. So hopefully we can close the gaps here. U.S. organic exports and imports. U.S. organic exports reached 548 million in 2016. The top U.S. organic exports were apples, grapes, and lettuce. Canada and Mexico accounted for 70% of U.S. organic exports. In addition, Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea were also among United States' top trade partners for organic products. And as you can see, quite a bit more imports. We've imported $1.65 billion of organic in 2016. The top US organic imports included bananas, coffee, olive oil, corn, and soybeans, highlighted for a reason. And then Turkey, Mexico, Italy, Peru, Ecuador supplied 43% of the imports, and 87 countries supplied organic products to the United States. So this particular slide is taken from Rodale Institute Farming Systems trial that we talked about a little bit earlier, which is the longest trial in the United States history, comparing conventional to organic. So, their decade-long research has shown that organic systems are competitive with conventional yields after a 5-year transition period, produce yields up to 40% higher in times of drought, earn 3 to 6 times greater profits for farmers, leach no toxic chemicals into waterways, use 45% less energy, and release 40% fewer carbon emissions, which is all very, very good. In addition, they have, at this time that I am aware of, they have about 72 different farming systems trials that they are conducting, with organic manure, conventional synthetic inputs, no-till systems, organic legumes, and you can certainly look more into those. But what is most captivating to me is this particular information is this economic analysis of income, expenses, and returns in organic and conventional systems. So organic is in green, conventional is in gray. So as you can see, income is substantially higher, expenses are a little bit lower, and therefore the returns are quite a bit higher for organic farms. So where are the farmers' perspectives on organic transition? A lot of them, as you can see, are value-based. Fits my family values, concerns about environment, potential enhancement of farm sustainability, and concerns about human health. So it's kind of interesting to see that, the potential for increase of profit is not quite as high as some of these other value-based motivations for these farmers. And then what are some perspectives on obstacles? So as you can imagine, weed management and the cost of the organic certification are a major concerns. And some of the other ones are also related to record keeping, which deals with the organic certification. And type of support these farmers would like to see: mentoring from experienced organic farmers, one-on-one technical assistance during transition, and in-person workshops or short courses. And we are here to support these farmers any way we can. All right, so here you guys will be seeing quite a few resources. If you want to grab a pen and a paper to jot some of these down, that'd be great. There will be quite a few of these slides. So one of very important resources, the FSA Organic Certification Cost Share Program. And this cost share program provides assistance to organic farmers, handlers, or anyone that's organic certified in the state of Iowa. And it offers up to 50% of certification costs paid during the program year, not to exceed $500 per certification scope. This actually recently changed. This used to be up to 75% or up to $750. So we are hoping to see that go back to $750. But in order to qualify for this organic cost share program, you have to get in touch with your county to get the right paperwork in to be able to receive this these funds. Another resource is the NRCS Equip Organic Initiative. It offers various organic farmers, depending on their farming operation, up to, I believe, last I checked, was like $30,000 per scope. And there's even bigger assistance depending on what you do, but generally up to $30,000 per year. USDA National Organic Program, of course, is a huge resource as well. They have, as you can see, a variety of different things that you can access. So definitely check them out. The USDA Organic Integrity Learning Center. This learning center actually has modules, so you can, even do some learning during your free time if you wish to do so. And then the NRCS Growing Organic Guide, they also have that available on their website, so be sure to check that out. And of course, Iowa Organic Association, we offer quite a few resources too on our website under the resources tab. And we also have created this organic resource directory. This directory is available in a PDF format on our website. You can access it directly from your computer. However, we have quite a few of these booklets printed. So if you would like for me to mail you one, definitely send me your address and I'd be more than happy to send this directory to you in mail. But what this directory has is all this information: organic consultants, organic CSAs, processors, grain buyers, university research, on and on. So it's a very, very handy document that you can utilize to find folks in the industry. Next is Kathleen Dell at Iowa State University. If you haven't heard of Kathleen, she is a professor at Iowa State. She does extensive research on organic, and she also has an organic agriculture class at Iowa State that she does every other year. I believe she's doing one this semester. And her research has been invaluable to us in the movement of organic. Midwest Organic and Sustainable Education Service, MOSES, they also offer a plethora of resources on their website. Definitely check them out. Grain is created by University of Wisconsin and Madison. They have an amazing listserv where you, as a farmer or anyone else that is interested to learn more about organic and the ins and outs, definitely check out their listserv, sign up for it, and you will learn quite a bit of information from that conversation piece. Rodale Institute, of course, a huge tool. And then the Rodale Institute Transition to Organic course. And then the Organic Agronomy Training Service. This is something that Roz, our executive director, has taken a couple years back. And she said there was a very extensive course, very in-depth. So something that was extremely useful to her to learn more about organic and transitioning, and so if you're interested, definitely check them out. The National Center for Appropriation Technology also goes by ATRA. They have documentation forms for organic crop and livestock producers, and so definitely check them out. SARE, which stands for Sustainable Agriculture and Research Education. They have a plethora of great research and great information on their website. And thanks to them, we are able to conduct these workshops due to the grant that we received from them. So we're grateful for that. eOrganic is another resource with great information. So as always, definitely reach out to me if you are, if you ever have any questions or concerns. I may not be able to provide you with the answer right away. I might have to search for it, but I'll always, connect you to the right resource and give you, valuable information. So here's my phone number and here is my email. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see if there are any questions that may have come in. I know I went through a lot of information. I tried to stay on time, and I am on time, so I'm happy with that. But yeah, does anyone have any questions for me at all? If not, no worries. You can add them to the chat, later on. That's no problem. But we can go ahead and get started with the next part of our agenda, and it will be Matt Miller. So Matt, if you want to move forward with your presentation, that would be great.
All right, sure, that sounds good. Thanks for everything, Olga. And can everybody hear me okay? Good. So as we said in the introductions, I've done organic inspections for a number of years, since about 2004. And I'll go ahead and show you my PowerPoint here for a second, if I can get that up. All right, does that look good? Let's see, hold on just a second. I picked up on the wrong one. There we go. All right, so if anybody, I didn't recognize a lot of names on the participant list, so it's this is a big topic. There's a lot of rules that apply for organic certification, so we're just going to look at the general, some general information, and then if there are questions, just please make sure to ask questions, because that makes it a lot more interesting and applicable. So as far as the paperwork that's involved with getting certified organic, the first thing is just make sure not to get overwhelmed. A lot of people will go and they will ask for an application, and then they start leafing through it, and they find out that it's going to take a little more time than they expected, and then they get overwhelmed and they don't apply. So don't let that happen, because it's not really that bad. And the other thing is make sure that you understand what the reason for the paperwork is, and then it just not so arbitrary. And the main reason you need to keep paperwork for organic certification is so that organic products can be traced back to their source. And so as an organic inspector, I could go into the grocery store, pick any organic product off the shelf, look at the lot number or the sell-by date code on it, and take it back to the food processor, and they would be able to tell me when they packaged that food, when they processed that food, and tell me all the ingredients that went into that particular batch that day, and tell me where those ingredients came from, and it would just trace on all the way back to the farm. And so if you understand that all of this food is traceable back to the farm, that will help you with your paperwork and designing your paperwork system. The other important thing about the paperwork is that it needs to be able to balance quantities in and quantities out. And so as an organic inspector, we're looking at, does the production levels make sense? If you're a farmer, we will look at how many acres of each particular crop you have, compare that to how much you've sold. Also look at what fertilizer levels you're putting on, and make sure that you're using enough fertilizer to get the yields. Or if you're producing eggs or milk, look at how many cows you have and how many chickens you have, so that all those things make sense and we can detect any commingling from non-organic product that may be trying to be sold as organic. The other reason for keeping paperwork is to show compliance with the regulations. And one of the examples I can think of here is that clean out of equipment is required in the regulation. And so every farmer should have a log of cleaning their wagons and their bins and their combines and other fruit washing equipment, all of those types of things. The other thing that the paperwork does is it communicates plans for your operations. And so it allows the organic certifier to look over what you plan to do in order to produce an organic product. And if you're planning to say like spot spray some Roundup, they will catch that and say, no, that's a bad plan. And so that's going to be helpful to you, that you have somebody double check your plans by communicating through the paperwork. The other thing to look at with the paperwork is a lot of times, you know, there's this saying, we can kill two birds with one stone, and we don't have to come up with a completely different paperwork system for organic, but you can use paperwork or you can use record keeping systems that you're already using. And on that one, for example, if you have your income tax records, you're going to have your receipts in there of what products you're buying, as well as what kind of sales you're having. And so you've already have a system for maintaining the amount of recording the amount of sales and purchases you have. And so that will work for your organic paperwork. So the records that you need for this balancing quantities in and quantities out is you need your sales documents, which would be scale tickets and settlement sheets and that sort of thing. You also need your input purchase documents. So that would be how much feed you're buying, how much seed you're buying, depending on what commodity you're growing. Combine yield reports are also very helpful for this inspector to determine if the quantities produced make sense. And your crop insurance data would be another document that you already have on file that would be useful. Efficiency factors that you might maintain for your own business are also useful to the organic inspector.
And sorry, Matt, I'm not trying to interrupt, but are you sharing slides?
Yeah.
We are not seeing your slides.
Oh. Okay, well, I'm sorry. Let me try this again then.
Yep.
Because I'm so sorry about that. You should say something quicker.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was like.
Yeah, okay. Well, let me go back to, do you see me?
We see you, but I am not seeing your slides.
Okay.
So if you want to share your screen again.
Well, right here. Okay, here's my, I got to click on this share. I think I'm going to get it this time.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's unfortunate. So if I'll just show you the slides real quick then.
Sure. That's fine. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's one of my slides that I already talked about.
Okay.
But yeah, now I can see my pictures on the side. I couldn't see that before. So inspectors want to balance quantities in and quantities out. So that's documents that they're going to look for. And then the other thing inspectors want to do is they want to trace the organic product back to its source. And so then, yeah, now we can pick up where we left off. Audit trail, paper trail to be able to do this. And this is the example that I give is For example, if you sell some corn, then you need to go and have a sales document, and then you need to have the next step back is that it got hauled to the elevator, and so there would be a bill of lading showing it's being hauled, and then it was hauled from a storage location, and so there should be a storage inventory report that you maintain. And then before it went into storage, it was harvested, and so you might have a yield map from your combine or just a notation on your calendar of which day this crop was harvested from a particular field. And then before it was harvested, that crop was grown, and so there would be field activities about what was done to produce that crop, cultivating it, planting it, and all that sort of thing. And then there would be records about inputs that were applied, such as the seed and the manure, maybe some type of organic insecticide, and then that will complete the trace back. And inspectors want to see all of those steps. And so here are the examples that I gave. The other thing that we need to do, like I said previously, is we need to show segregation. And that would be a document noting that you cleaned your combine or you cleaned your vegetable washing equipment when you switched from some non-organic product to organic products. All right. The other thing that inspectors are looking for is that you can show compliance with the regulation. Your paperwork needs to be able to show that you're complying with the regulation. And Olga pointed out these regulations. They can be found on the National Organic Program webpage. And there are some, I guess, there's a lot of regulations, but as a organic farmer, you don't need to read the entire part because there are regulations about how certifiers need to behave, and that probably is not something so applicable to you. There's also regulations about what must be on organic food products, but unless you're labeling, that is not going to apply. So the main parts that will apply for crop farmers would be these sections, 205, 103, which tells you what is required for record keeping, 205, 200 through 205, 207, which is the production practices for crops. And then 270 and 272 relate to your handling facilities. At the very end of the regulation is where it has the inputs that are allowed. It has natural, it is assumed that all natural inputs are allowed. And so it has a list of natural inputs that are prohibited. And it's assumed that all synthetic inputs are prohibited. And so it has a list of synthetic inputs that are actually allowed. And so I guess that you have to understand the assumptions. Natural things are allowed, synthetic things are prohibited unless they're on this list of exceptions. And those are found in the areas of 601 and through 604, depending on if you're a crop producer, livestock producer, or processing operation. I guess this is going in backwards. So yeah, this is what I said. Oh, the other part you might want to read is the definitions, like, for example, what does crop rotation mean? So the paperwork is going to help communicate plans for your operation. You need to complete what is called the organic system plan, and a lot of people just call it the application to your certifier. And so the certifier will send you, when you tell the certifier you want to apply, they will send you these forms, which are actually going to become your organic system plan. And so when you fill these forms out and send them back, there's a series of questions on them. And if you put an answer on there that would not be allowed, the certifier is going to review that and hopefully get back to you before you do something that would not be allowed, so that you don't mess up your organic certification. Speaking of organic certifiers, you need to select an organic certification agency. And my recommendation on that is that you would look for a certification agency that is already doing business in your area, because you will have an on-site inspection and the inspector will be able to travel to multiple farms on the same trip, and that will save you expense. Also, it's a lot easier to, if there's some kind of dispute, it's a lot easier to deal with a certifier that is close to you rather than in California or Maryland or someplace far away like that. So there's also a list on the USDA webpage of all the certifying agencies, and there's the link to it. I also mentioned that it's a good idea to talk to farmers that are in your area and they have an opinion about which certifiers they like and do not like. The NOP integrity database, and mention that. Once you decide to become an organic farmer, you have to go through these transition years, and you don't have to be certified in those years, but you do have to keep records. And so, you know, even though this isn't required, it's a good idea to ask a certifier that you plan to work with if the inputs that you're planning to use while you are transitioning are going to be allowed, because a lot of times the most common thing that will happen, for example, like in a vegetable operation, is they have this garden and they haven't used any insecticides or herbicides in it for 3 years. And then they say, okay, I'm ready to be a certified organic produce patch. And the certifier starts to ask them questions like, well, where did your tomato transplants come from? Well, they came from Walmart. Well, they're not allowed because the soil mix that Walmart sells is not allowed in organic. Therefore, your 3-year transition didn't count. So that's why it's a good idea to talk to your certifier before you start the transition and just make sure all those inputs are not going to be a problem. The other thing that is a good idea during the transition years is just to get a copy of that application form, the organic system plan document, so that you have an idea of what's going to be expected at the end of the 3-year period. And then make sure you document the last application of the prohibited substance, the date that your 3-year organic transition starts. And then as you start farming organically, during those transition years, you need to keep documenting your activities, write down which inputs you use, because your inspector will ask for the records from the past 3 years of transition on that first organic inspection that you have when you're through the 3rd year. So this is kind of a schematic of what it looks like. Probably most people are maybe already familiar with this, but for example, if we started back here in 2018 with a transition, and let's say that we last sprayed our crop in 2017, okay, then in 2018, let's say it was June of 2017, we sprayed the crop. Actually, let's go 2000. Let's see, this is 21. So we'll just leave that example. So 2017, we spray the crop, and then in 2018, in June, whenever the date was, there's your first year of transition is completed. And then in June of 2019, you have the 2nd year completed. And so you're going to plant your crop in May of 2020. And it's not through the 3 years yet because it gets through 3 years in June, but you're going to harvest after June. So that is your first organic year. And in that first organic year, you will complete your organic application, your organic system plan, probably in January, February, this time of the year. And then your inspection will happen during the growing season. And then after the inspection occurs a few weeks later, you should get your organic certificate and can start selling your crop. This is what to expect as far as an inspection. The inspector will scheduled to visit your farm. They will tour the fields and the bins and the equipment, and they will look at your records. So they basically look at the whole system. And then the inspector, the inspector doesn't make the decision and tell you, yes, your farm is certified organic, or no, it's not. They basically just report their information to the certifier, and the certifier will make that decision. But during the inspection, the inspector will mention opportunities for improvement and any non-compliances that may be potentially found by the certifier. That way there aren't any surprises. The inspection happens once a year, and as Olga mentioned as well, there are random inspections, there are unannounced inspections, and there are sampling inspections that happen on a random basis. It's 5% are required per year, so it could be higher. As far as the record keeping, typically the organic system plan asks what records are you going to maintain. This is a copy of an organic system plan record keeping section. And so if you marked off, you're going to have field activity logs and organic seed documents and fertility input labels, the inspector is just going to go right down the list and say, well, let's see your field activity logs and your seed documents and all the other things listed here, and you should have those things. So it shouldn't be a surprise. There's a lot of different systems that producers use for keeping records. And the most simple thing to do is to just have a calendar and to write down things that happen on a daily basis. If you're planting, write down where you're planting and how much you're planting and what seed you're planting. And if you're harvesting, write down what field you're harvesting and how much you're harvesting. If you have cows and you need to, treat a cow with something, write that on your calendar. There are also much more technical systems such as precision farming software and things like QuickBooks that help keep records, and those things work as well. Make sure that you keep all of your receipts and input labels. Make sure you keep logs of your bin and storage inventory. If you have a produce operation, that would be your cooler if you do much of any storage. And then sales documents, which would be settlement sheets or invoices, and then equipment cleaning log, which is just a list of what equipment needed to be cleaned and how you cleaned it. And then soil testing is important because it shows that you are taking care of the soil and not mining the soil of nutrients, increasing soil organic matter, and those types of things. So soil testing is encouraged to occur on a 4 or 5 years. There are fees that are required for organic certification. If you fail to pay your fees, that's a non-compliance. And then once you have a certificate, you can start selling your organic products. As far as those fees, they typically charge an application fee for you to start out. If it doesn't look like you can be certified, then the process stops. If it looks like you can be certified, then they'll send an inspector and you'll have a fee for the inspector. And then once you receive certification, there's a final fee for that. And as Olga mentioned, the cost share program can help you reimburse some of your expenses. Olga mentioned some resources as well to help with organic certification. And these are ones that she also mentioned. So they not only help with just learning about organic production, but they help with understanding the organic certification process. Now, there's always these questions that come up, like, if some GMO pollen drifts onto my field, do I lose organic certification? What's the inspector going to do to me? And what the regulation says is that you need to have sufficient buffers in place to try to prevent contamination and reduce your risk. And if you have buffers in place and you're following your plan, your farm is not going to be decertified because of GMO pollen drift. Now, there are buyers out there that they have certain standards, and if your corn is, 5% GMO, they could reject it. They can reject it for lower percentages, but it's not going to lose your organic certification because you followed your organic plan. Now the question is what happens if herbicides drift onto an organic field? And with the dicamba soybeans these last few years, this has been an issue. And what needs to happen is you need to contact the Pesticide Bureau at the Iowa Department of Agriculture, and they have inspectors and they will verify the drift occurred. And then the way the rules are written is applicators need to make sure that the pesticides stay on the property that they're applying it to and not leaving that property. And so if it does leave that property, they're liable for it. But unfortunately, you will lose your organic certification on that portion of the field where herbicide drift occurred. And you'll have to go through 3 years of transition. So that person that's liable for the misapplication should compensate you in some way for that. And then what happens if I apply a prohibited substance, like, the salesman came and told you this, I promise you this great product is approved for organic and you should buy it and make terrific yields, and you listen to them and you do it, and then you show the inspector your label and the inspector says, oh no, this is not good. This is a prohibited input. If that happens, you will lose organic certification for 3 years on your farm. On that particular field, not your entire farm, unless you put it on the entire farm. And I also recommend that if this would accidentally happen, you just be forthright and tell the certifier that you put this product on, because if it's detected and you do not disclose that, then you'll be banned from organic farming for at least 5 years. You'll lose your certificate and it could be fined. So you don't want to get in trouble with not following the regulation. And then what happens if you plant GMO seed? Again, GMO seed is a prohibited input, and it will take 3 years before that field is allowed for organic. Anyway, that concludes my short presentation. We still have looks like 7 minutes before my time is up. So I would entertain any questions that are relevant to paperwork and record keeping and organic certification regulations.
Yeah, and there was actually a question that came in from Randy, and he said, what is the best way to get certified? I am 3 years into my transition this June and plan to grow organic corn this year.
So I showed, I'll flip right back to that nice little picture. And so I should have probably not current with my years on this, but so his transition started back in 2019. Well, he would have last sprayed in 18, and then 2019 would be the first year, 2020 would be the completion of the second year. And he says 21, he'll complete the third year transition. And so the first thing is he needs to figure out who he wants to have for an organic certifier. And that's this time of the year when they are taking applications. He needs to contact them, find out how much they're going to charge, and find somebody that he thinks he's going to work well with, and get their application so that he can complete the organic system plan by the deadline. Mm-hmm. And then he can, they'll send an inspector, they'll communicate with him and send the inspector. Does that help?
Yeah, and to add to that, Randy, I'm not recommending one certifying agency over the other. However, a lot of farmers, organic farmers in Iowa, from my experience, tend to go with Iowa Department of Agriculture and Land Stewardship, and which also goes by IDALS. And they are taking in applications through March 15th is the regular application time. And then if you don't get your application in prior to March 15th, they do allow the application through April 15th, but there will be an $100 surcharge. So definitely get in touch with IDALS, with someone from their agency, and just, get that process, get that ball rolling, get the application in, and and they'll be able to really help you with any questions you may have regarding the application. As Matt was saying, they're there to help you get on the right path. Okay, excellent.
Any other questions?
Randy says thanks for your help. Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah, are there any other questions from anyone else? Yeah, I think to add to this, I have my own organic business, and from my personal experience, the inspections and the inspectors, when they come to your facility to check on you, they're there to make sure that obviously you're abiding by the National Organic Program standards and you're doing everything right. But they're not there to, like, I feel like there's people are afraid by inspections, and it's like, don't be afraid. If you're doing everything right, you're keeping all your records and doing, you'll be fine, and it shouldn't be that overwhelming. I will also say that despite the fact that I'm a very small operation, I had an unannounced inspection on my facility, which goes to show that, what, they don't, you just never know. You could come up on their list for an unannounced inspection. And funny enough, I was 9 months pregnant at the time. And so, they don't have to do this. They don't have to call you and tell you, oh, hey, I'm coming to do an unannounced inspection. However, that gal, she ended up calling me and she told me, oh, Olga, I'm in the area. I'm drop by in an hour. And all I could think of, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to give birth to my baby today. And I ended up, passing the unannounced inspection with flying colors. But yeah, it's a little bit nerve wracking because you're not anticipating them to come. So you're like, oh my gosh, did I do everything right? Do I have all the documents? But yeah, if you keep at it throughout the year, you'll be just fine. But for me, the fact that they did an unannounced inspection just shows me and gives me more credibility with the label. I know that they can do that to anyone, despite the size, despite anything. And in addition to that, they can take your product and send it to a lab and see if it is indeed organic certified. So they can actually even test it, which is pretty cool too. So yeah, there's a lot of good things behind the label, and really being certified keeps you accountable and makes you a better business person, if you may, better farmer, better handler, whatever category you fall into.
Yeah, I would agree, Olga, as far as the inspectors, like as long as you're doing everything according to what you submitted as your organic system plan, you shouldn't have any apprehension about having an organic inspection. And a lot of the role of the organic inspector is to help you understand the regulations better. So your inspector should have a copy of the regulations. And then if you have questions about anything, they should be able to point out what the regulation says and address your question. But at the same time, we don't want to sound too casual about it. And there's always been these headlines about people that have cheated on organic regulations and commingled stuff. And so the way that stuff, those things work is sometimes people might get by with something a year or two, but eventually it catches up. And like Olga says, is they do these unannounced inspections and they do this sampling. And so you might think that inspection is really easy and your inspector is a nice person, but that doesn't mean that you should cut corners, because this is pretty serious, and it's a federal regulation, and there's people that get into some serious trouble when they lie about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. That's a very good point. Thanks for bringing that up, for sure. Scott Scott, which is on our farmer panel, he's an organic farmer. He says, don't be a stranger to your inspector during transition. Call and ask questions so they get to know you and you get to know them. So that's a good tip. Thanks, Scott. All right, well, if there are no final questions for Matt, then we'll move forward with Megan Thomas with Mercaris. Thank you so much, Matt. Much appreciated.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm going to share my screen here.
Oh, you know what? Actually, it's our break time, isn't it? I'm sorry. Yeah, it is our break time. Megan, sorry.
No worries.
All right, you guys, it is our break time. So we'll go ahead and take a quick 15-minute break till 1:30 or 1:31, and then Megan will move forward with her presentation. Sounds good? Just stretch, get a drink, get a snack, and we'll see you in 15 minutes.
Hi, Olga. Can you
Hi.
hear me?
Yes. Hi. Hi, Wayne.
I was having periodic difficulty in hearing Matt. I'm hoping that doesn't happen when I am on the screen.
Yeah, yeah, I think I did too. Uh his sound kind of kept in and out a little bit, and it could be due to internet internet connectivity. But you are coming through pretty good, Wayne. So
Okay,
yeah, I don't think there'll be issues there.
good. Well, I was just concerned.
Yeah, yeah, it's some of those things, you can't really control very much, they just kind of, just do the best of, with what you can.
They've been talking about sources of information.
Hmm.
About the most valuable thing I find
Hmm.
is that in Waukon, about once a month in the winter, there are meetings of organic farmers. They get about 30 farmers together and they talk about whatever's on their mind.
Oh,
And they occasionally have speakers as well. I
oh,
guess most of the time they have a speaker for part of the time and talk part of the time, but you get a chance to ask others what their experiences are and you get to hear a variety of experiences.
yeah.
Uh, it might be worth mentioning that at some point.
Oh yeah, totally. Definitely mention that during your presentation again for everyone, for sure. But yeah, and this is kind of what we're trying to do with these growing organic expertise workshops too, is give people the ability to listen to other organic farmers and learn from their journey. So but yeah, that other event that you were talking about, that sounds like a great resource.
Yeah, it is. And if there is not such a meeting, why they should organize one.
Yeah, there's just some COVID, limitations and restrictions, but yeah, we're hopeful that we can do some in-person events too still this year. So we'll see how it all pans out.
Sure enough, I've taken enough of your time.
It's all
Thank
good.
you.
It's all good. Well, Megan, I believe we're all back. And if you'd like to start with your presentation, that would be great. Thank you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Olga. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, perfect. I will share my screen here. All right, can everyone see my screen? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
My apologies. Let me get situated here. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you today. So my name is Megan, and I am with Mercaris. So at Mercaris, I do a few things. I co-author several of our reports and publications that we put out, and also I keep an eye on market trends, which is what I'll be talking to you about today. So we'll get into organic agronomics and market trends. Second here. Okay. If you're not familiar with what we at Mercaris do, we do two main things. We are a market data service and trading platform for organic, non-GMO, and other identity preserved ag commodities. Here are some of the types of reports and analytics that we produce. So we report on organic and non-GMO pricing, spot and forward, food and feed grade, and our pricing covers the US and Canada. We also do some supply and demand analysis, some organic import tracking, also annual organic acreage tracking, along with some few other data services and products that we also offer. Many people know us by the Mercaris Market Survey. So our survey is the most comprehensive and largest organic and non-GMO data set available to date. We only include verified contracts, not offers. And our survey is made up of about 50 first handlers and trading firms. And it covers about 25% of the organic and non-GMO grain market. And some of the crops that we include in our survey are organic and non-GMO corn, beans, soybean meal, all major classes of wheat, and also some small grains, oats, barley, rye, and some pulses. So that was just a short overview. One more overview slide here. We also offer products to farmers free of charge. So farmers can sign up for a free account and receive our organic producers report, which an example of that report is here on your screen. So some of the things that farmers and also other customers can come to our site for is to gain access to market reports, sell crops with us, and also reach new buyers at competitive prices. So we're going to get into what you all came to see, organic markets. So first we'll start by looking at US organic corn and soybean feed prices, just sort of reflecting on the 2020 fall harvest and its impact on organic commodity prices. So during the 1920 marketing year, it was pretty challenging for organic corn markets. We saw prices fall by $2.50 a bushel from September 2019, which is the start of the graph here on your screen, until about the following year, September 2020. But since 2020's harvest, corn markets have appeared to, mostly stabilize, mostly because of declining corn imports, organic corn imports, that is, which are down compared to organic corn imports are down over the first 4 months of the 2021 marketing year. So overall, according to the Mercaris price survey, organic feed corn prices are averaged about $6.98 a bushel in December of 2020. And that's up 40 cents compared to the previous year. And then switching to take a look at organic soybeans here. So organic soybeans held up pretty well. They gained about 64 cents a bushel over the 1920 marketing year. And the price averaged about 1966 a bushel over December of 2020. So even though December's price was a bit below the start of the marketing year, the price still remained well within the $19 to $20 per bushel range. So now we'll take a look at the organic supply balance. So here on the left side of your screen, you'll see organic corn imports in yellow, and organic soybeans on the right in green. So taking a look at organic corn in 2015 to 16, we see that organic corn imports made up about half of our supplies, 52%, compared to the 1920 marketing year, where imports made up 29% of our supplies. So we see a sort of a smaller reliance on imports over the last 5 years or so with corn. And we'll take a look at soybeans here on the right. Similarly, in 15-16, we were importing 86% of our supplies came from imports for soybeans, compared to 77% in 1920. So we don't see as much of a change in reliance of organic soybeans as we see in corn, mostly just because, you know, our domestic capacity to produce organic soybeans, we can only produce so much, and so the rest of it we have to rely on imports as feed demand continues to grow. So why are we importing all this corn and soybeans? As I'm sure you already know, most of these imports supply the organic livestock and feed sectors. So if you take a look at this table here, on the left side, you'll see organic livestock inventories, the different classes of livestock here, and then you'll see the percent change on the far right side of the table. So as you can see, 2020 broilers were on a roller coaster. So were turkey slaughter. So turkey production was up 147% over 1920. In August of 2019, turkey production was at 5,600 head a day. And then a year later, production was nearly 14,000 head a day. So it's a, insane 147% year over year growth for turkeys. And as you can see in the table here, turkeys livestock inventories grew 39% compared to the previous marketing year. Following that, the pig crop is also displaying a impressive 27% year over year growth. So as I mentioned, this is where the bulk of our organic corn and soybean imports are going. So taking a look at organic corn supply here. So we have about 3.1 million additional organic corn over the 2021 marketing year. So we're seeing 9% more organic corn production over this marketing year, 3% lower imports, and our food use and residual has sort of tightened over the last marketing year. So if you take a look at this table here, we're showing area harvested, production, trade, and usage. So we have about 2% more area harvested compared to the previous marketing year, and also about 2% more silage production, 9% more grain production. So we see sort of a decreased reliance on organic corn imports. So here we see maritime imports of organic cracked corn. So in the 1920 marketing year, we see imports declined compared to 2020, the 2020 to 2021 marketing year, have the potential for imports to move even lower. So for maritime imports of organic cracked corn, we saw a boost in December of 2020 of imports that were actually up 70% month over month. But despite that boost, corn imports continue to lag behind the previous year. So at Mercaris, we're estimating corn imports to remain generally lower throughout the remainder of this current marketing year. So here we'll take a look at corn prices. So the January 2021 feed grade corn price according to Mercaris's prices, was about $7.69 a bushel. So up $1.23 compared to the previous year. December's price was about $6.87 a bushel. And the organic premium came in at about $2.22 a bushel. So this is still below the premium of the previous year. But even though that premium is lower, we are seeing organic corn prices gain some more momentum when you look at prices in December and January and also into this month. So we're seeing corn prices steadily rising back up. All right. Now we'll take a look at organic soybean production. So organic soybean production, we had a record 2020 harvest. We had about 3% more harvested acres and 9% higher yields. So very positive outlook for soybeans. Nearly 1 million additional bushels in US production. So it's about a 12% increase year over year. So the 2021 marketing year soybean supply is set to expand 9% to reach 1.6 million bushels. And organic meal imports still have room to recover and grow. I know this is quite a bit of information. Okay, moving on into soybean imports. So taking a look at whole bean imports. Imports remain sluggish in December, down 54% compared to the previous year. And we've seen imports reduced from all sources, down from Russia, down from Argentina as well. So in total, organic soybean imports were down about 23% over the first 4 months of the 2020-21 marketing year. So as I mentioned before, taking a look at organic soybean meal imports, in contrast to whole bean imports, meal imports were, off the charts in December. They were more than double their level compared to December 2019. And December of 2020 marked the fourth consecutive month where imports more than doubled the previous year's level of imports. So in total, we're seeing meal imports were up about 122% compared to the previous year over the first 3 months of the marketing year, which meal imports still have more potential to continue this growth. So soybean prices remain mostly strong. According to Mercaris prices, the January 2021 feed grade price was about $20 a bushel. This was up 30 cents compared to the previous year. Also, the soybean organic premium was up nearly $5 a bushel compared to the previous year. So as I mentioned, supplies look higher for this marketing year. And the biggest risk that we see for soybean prices is another big harvest. All right. Looking at wheat production here. So we had a higher harvested area across the board, driven primarily by expansion across the high plains. We saw winter wheat production up 4%. higher across most regions. Yields were down 2%, following a really good 2019 harvest. Other spring wheat production up 9%. We saw more acres across the high plains. Yields were also improved. And then we also saw organic durum production up, specifically Montana, Arizona, added a significant number of acres. So in general, organic wheat production, it was great. Very positive outlook. So taking a look at wheat prices here, this graph only shows prices into Q3 of 2020, but over Q4 2020 and into this quarter, our average organic wheat feed price was about $8.26 a bushel compared to food grade, which was about $11.60. And organic feed wheat prices tend to move with corn. They usually follow the same trend as corn. So the biggest question here is, will demand pick up enough to outpace production growth? So we'll take a look at some implications and just some things that Mercaris will be keeping our eye on for the rest of this year and beyond. So overall, the fall harvest, appears to have ended pretty quietly. We didn't see any shocks to the supply market, to the supply outlook. So any price volatility that we see will likely come from changes in demand or changes in trade. So we have a few different things at play for this marketing year. We have, transition in government. We have this ongoing COVID response. So we can see that consumer demand could change very quickly. Incomes could change very quickly. I would say the most important thing that we're keeping our eye on right now is imports, particularly organic soybeans. So like I said, price volatility could result from changes in trade. I'm sure you all have heard, but we're particularly keeping an eye on the Indian soybean market, as it was announced there in the process of recertification efforts through the National Organic Program. So we could see some disruption to organic soybean imports after about the summer of this year. And just to give you some background, the US accounted for more than half of India's exported products in 2019. And in the 1920 marketing year, we imported about 42% of our soybean supplies from India. So, like I said, it'll be very important for us to sort of just keep an eye on what's going on in that market, there. And I want to thank you for your attention over these past few minutes. Here's my contact information if you would like to reach out, and I will go ahead and take questions if you have any.
Yeah, there were a few questions that have come in and a few answers, but I'll ask the questions of you too. What Kara asked, why are there not as much domestic soybean production, especially considering the demand?
Sure. So for organic soybean production, we just don't have the capacity to keep up with demand. We don't have the capacity to produce organic soybeans to keep up with the growing feed demand. We can only plant so much. And so the rest of what we cannot produce domestically, we are relying on foreign imports. And so, like we saw with corn, we've been able to slowly increase our production of corn. But with soybeans, that's just, it's just not the case. Our capacity remains limited.
Lynn said that I had seen an analysis of soybean exports from the US, then resulting in import of soybean meal. I think Japan did most of the processing and export to the US. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, so we actually don't track exports. It may be something that we might add to our analysis in the future. But yeah.
Okay. And then Randy is asking, where is the best place to sell organic corn in central Iowa?
I don't know that answer off the top of my head. But if if you have a sizable amount that you would like to sell, feel free to reach out to me and we can find you some buyers.
Okay. And James McKellar added to Lynn's comment. He said, I agree. I also think agronomically organic soybeans just doesn't work well in an organic rotation. There's also challenges with the economics of growing organic soybeans, which may not be as attractive to farmers wanting to transition additional acres to organic soybeans.
Yes, I agree. One more comment I'll add about soybeans is, sometimes when it comes to wanting soybean meal, a lot of folks don't want the oil that comes with crushing. So that could be another reason why, we'd rather just import the meal versus producing it domestically.
Gotcha. And as far as selling organic corn in central Iowa, Scott or Wayne, do you guys have any suggestions on that?
I guess I would look at your website. I believe there's some publication that you guys put together that you have a list of businesses that are trading in corn or different crops, and I would probably relate to your website and then look at that resource there.
The resource directory, yeah. Definitely check out that resource directory, Randy, for sure. That would be a good starting point. I can't think of off top of my head. I think, yeah, I'm sorry. I'll have to look into that though too for you, Randy, and get back to you. So sounds good. All right. Well, Megan, I believe that is all the questions that I see in the chat. Thank you so very much for your presentation. This was very helpful to just get an idea of where the markets stand with organic soybeans and organic corn and organic wheat. So that's very, very helpful. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and move to Wayne. Wayne, if you are ready to share your presentation, go right ahead.
Okay. I'm trying.
So what you do is you click on that up arrow on the bottom of the screen as you hover down.
You gotta click twice.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and then I'm seeing your presentation. Yeah, there from the beginning.
Now you're seeing halfway through it. I gotta go to the beginning. There we are.
Perfect.
I'm Wayne Weissness. I farm with my son, Ryan. We run about 500 acres of crops. We live about 7 miles south of Decorah, Iowa, which is in northeast Iowa. We have corn, beans, oats, hay, rye, red clover that we grow. We've got trees and CRP that we grow for the birds, the wildlife, and the grandkids. I was listening to a request, looking for sources of information for you folks. I got two thoughts. One is that there is a meeting in the winter put on by Greg Welch, who did the first organic farm, or certified organic farm in Iowa, up in Lansing, Iowa. They run a meeting for people to get together and talk, farmers. They're having one Tuesday, February 16th at 7 o'clock in the evening. And so you got to go there for a Zoom meeting. Contact John Lubke, it says, so you can get a hold of me if you want to find out. Or maybe Olga will have it.
Yeah, I'll get in touch with you, Wayne, and I can certainly have that available for folks that inquire, the meeting link.
Okay. I sell a lot of my products through NFO. They have a service that looks for prices. I like them because that is a farmer looking for prices and not somebody that is trying to make a few cents off the sale. I have no idea what is happening with what, Megan? But maybe you should check them both. Okay, we grow rye and red clover as cover crops, although some rye is fed to chickens to replace some of the corn. Hybrid rye is a great crop because it spreads the work, it covers the soil. And how do I get rid of I need a full screen here. And I've got everybody's picture, including my own. Is there a way to get rid of that?
Yes, so what you do is you click on the view button up top and just click full screen. So the view button is on the top right hand side corner. Do you see it?
No, but I hear my wife upstairs. She's maybe coming down and she might point it out. Yep, I hear her coming. Up on the upper right hand side, I see more chat, reactions, record meetings, disability. Hide video panel, is that it?
So do view and then do full screen. It's a side-by-side gallery, side-by-side speaker, or full screen.
You see it?
At the top.
There's no view there.
Not on yours, but there is on mine.
Okay, well, let's see. Oh, well, I'll improvise. Okay. Hybrid rye is a great crop. It spreads the workload, it covers the soil, and it provides good feed and covers the ground. We have discovered that we like hybrid rye. We get about a third more grain out of it, and that makes it an economical crop to grow for feed. We feed it to the chickens and find that there's no reduction in production in egg production, and it's a little cheaper and nicer to grow. Well, I've listed the advantages. The other cover crop that we grow would be red clover. We frost seed it over rye that was seeded the previous fall, so it can grow all summer and provide nitrogen for next year's crop. That's about the only legume we have found that will survive underneath a cover of rye. So that system works. And there are the grandkids. They're out to plant more woods. This is my first job. Back in 1948, I was 7, and I was up there driving the tractor in front, a 1936 Oliver 70. First gear, idle down, keep the front wheels on the row. My dad was up behind here forking the hay ahead. So I thought I would list a little bit of the landmarks of our farm, just so you know a little bit more about where we're at. In 1964, I purchased my first farm with my dad. We started farming together, my dad, brother, and I. And by 1994, I was farming by myself. We met to start an organic certification chapter. This is how it worked before we had a government program. This meeting was to start an OCIA chapter. They were a national organization, and they encouraged farmers to get together in a group, and we would certify each other's farms and under the auspices of OCIA. So that's how it was done before we had a national program. We raised our first crop of organic soybeans in 1995. So we sold them to Japan because that was the, that was what made the money in organic. And that time, Japan was a big marketer for soybeans. That phased out when they started finding that organic soybeans were cheaper, and then they found out that organic soybeans from China probably weren't organic, and the whole market in Japan imploded. That was later on. 2002, Ryan graduated from college and came home to farm. In 2000, well, it took a while. We were both settled in, and was this going to work? 2007, we decided, yep, it's going to work. We built a chicken house so that we could give Ryan his own enterprise, and the farm could have a 2 family-sized income. Looking at how I look at things, primarily the soil, that's where it all comes from. I look at soil loss and chemical use as the primary considerations. I note, though, that if you follow these considerations, you also increase the health of your soil. But I like these 2 very much. Here's where we have gone. We went, of course, before when we started farming, there wasn't any chemical at all. So we were organic way back when I was loading hay. We got our first chemicals back in '64 and started putting chemicals on. We loved it at first because we got rid of those terrible, terrible weeds. And it wasn't that much more work. We went from about 80 bushel corn to 100 bushel corn. Later on, we discovered that really organic wasn't that bad a thing after all, and we could maybe find some way to tackle the weeds. And we disliked well, I guess after the 80s, I very much disliked the way the conventional corn market worked, with the buyers all attempting to get the lowest possible price from the person that would sell it the lowest, and that person was the one that set the price for the whole crop. So we stayed with organic, or went with organic, after 1995. We started out with conventional till, tilling the soil up good and killing all the weeds that way. That didn't work terribly well because we still got a lot of weeds. And now we have started to till as little as possible, trying to kill the weeds without tilling the soil, just tilling shallow on no deeper than we have to. And here are the reasons. I've got a reason for one and a reason for the other, and I've kind of picked at this, but these are probably my strongest points in wanting to do watching the chemical and watching the erosion of the soil. Now, I heard somebody say, just on the radio, but I thought, whoa, that is true. Every major ancient civilization destroyed the land serving as its breadbasket, changing into a desert over time. And yeah, when I drive out west here in Iowa, I say, whoa, that looks pretty black. But here is the Sahara Desert. this was the major breadbasket for the whole Roman Empire. And of course, the Roman Empire lasted 2,000 years, so they had quite a while to do this. But look at that desert. It looks like it would have been nice prime farmland if it just had about 6 feet of dirt on it. But that's all gone. There's no real hope that you can grow anything out there. Then it destroyed the whole culture as well. There aren't any people there. On the south side of the Mediterranean, there's hundreds of miles of beautiful, beautiful sand beaches, and they go back 1,000 miles. And that used to be cropland, and they built buildings like this. There are lots of these ruins along that southern coast. Now, looking at the chemical, I look at the chemicals so much, is that a researcher did blood tests on a large group of Massachusetts children, found multiple farm chemicals in their blood. They'd never been on the farm or even near one, and now we're looking at multiple chemicals in their blood, more than one. So who knows what one chemical will do when in the human body, and especially in children? What will a mixture of them do? I guess I didn't mention that my source for this was a speaker at the annual meeting of Organic Valley some years ago. I trust that he was very carefully looked at before he was engaged for this. But there was a doubter in the audience, and he raised his hand and he said, but the amounts are so small, they can't possibly do anything. I was kind of amused at the speaker's answer. He said, well, have you ever looked at the Viagra label? It does not take much active ingredient to do a lot. So to make sure that these chemicals came from food, they put them on an organic diet for a couple months. The chemicals disappeared. I thought that was fairly powerful research. So we've been doing a little bit on our own. This is a field where we were saying, well, could we possibly get along without tillage? I've been reading some about farmers that try it, and it worked here. We got about 30 bushels the acre off this thing, and we seeded it the 30th of May with rye, and we planted it with soybeans and let it go. Although, as will be obvious before long, we have a problem with giant ragweed here on this farm. We did go through and zap them, and I'll talk a little bit more about zapping later. Here we are beginning our program. We're growing soybeans. We think they are a very good crop that we can grow. From our standpoint, why the imports from India are the cap on the price, and so we have to devise ways to profit from the soybeans that are grown here with and still stay profitable under that cap. We're starting out with flaming. This is the flamer. It's a gas flame that is put out on, right here, you see it burning. That flame kills the weeds, and you can't see any weeds. You can see crop if you look here. The crop is growing. Can you see my hand? I don't.
Yeah, we can see your cursor, Wayne. Yep. Thanks for showing. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See now, you can flame soybeans the first time until the wax is gone from the soybean itself. The wax will protect the plant from the fire. The other thing to think about here is that these shields can be moved so that you can make a place for the row of soybeans to go through. So when the soybeans get over a foot tall, you can go through and do a pretty good job on the grass that's coming at that point. Not so much on the broadleaves, but you'll hurt them too. A lot of people go out with a rotary hoe and they're sold on that. I'm less sold. We went out, my son went out and did the flaming on a field, and I went out with a rotary hoe on a field. When we got done looking at it, we sold the rotary hoe. Haven't done it since. Here's how it looks after you have done it and the soybeans grow just a day or two more. You note the weeds are pretty well gone. I think that you kill almost all the weeds with this process because the weeds are so small that they haven't developed anything to store in the root. So they just have no choice but to die. Unfortunately, they come back anyway, but it does set them back. Here's how it looked a few days later, and this is when we should have been cultivating, but we had a rainy spring here this year. So it looked more like this when we started to cultivate, but you can still see the row. In the foreground here, you can see grass that is growing. The flamer hasn't started yet till right there. This is right next to the lawn. And so we cultivated, and now I'm going to switch gears and we'll talk about the zapper. Here's Travis on his zapper. We hire him to come out and zap the crop. He shows up with the zapper. He works for Quality Organic Producer Cooperative, where I'm the president. So I got to use him, but I love it. The zapper has a PTO on the back that runs turns the generator. The generator goes to a transformer, and the transformer kicks the juice up to the front, this bar right here. And that has 15,000 volts in it. When the tractor advances enough to get to this weed, the weed will conduct the electricity into the ground, and the electricity will go through the stem, through the root, and out into the ground. In the process, it'll heat all the cells, and steam will be forming in some of them. The cells burst, and the weed is killed immediately. Obviously, you have to have a crop that's low enough so that the weeds grow to the top. But for soybeans, it works great. Oats, pasture, anything where the weeds stick above the crop. And about 4 or 5 hours after the job is done, why, this is what the giant ragweed looks like. You can see it here. There's some more back here. They just aren't going to do anything. What they do is eventually they turn black and crumple to the ground. Here's how the field looks after it has been zapped and a little bit of while has elapsed. It looks kind of brown, and it is. You know, we flamed to get rid of the grass and the beans, but the grass is persistent and it comes all season long. And as you can see here, Travis got a leaf or two. That didn't hurt anything. No, that plant's going to be all right because the petiole has just small leaves and doesn't conduct enough electricity to kill the soybean plant if you don't get down further than don't get down to the main stem. But what makes it brown mostly out there in that field is the grass. Some of the foxtail is just sticking above the grass, and Travis is looking at it, and he's skillful enough to just get that little bit. Okay, we've got more pictures of an organic soybean field using our methods. And after a while, the weeds fall down and the beans are growing green, and this is what it looks like. And that I like. I thought I would throw in a picture of the cornfields. This is just simply a summary picture. This is how the cornfield looked if things go correctly. That, of course, can mean things like the rain has to come right, and that's out of your control, but a lot of things are in your control. And that concludes my my screen sharing with you and my talk. Hopefully it's been interesting, and be great if you learned something.
Yeah, this was really wonderful.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Wayne. This was great. And you can stop sharing your screen if you want. Click on that button and that will, yep, perfect. I actually had a couple
There you
of,
are.
yeah, I had a couple of questions for you. So on your slide that you had handwritten notes, you said organic, no-till, nirvana. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, nirvana is what, the Indian word for heaven. And so that's where I want to go, you know, and I don't care if it's Indian or not, but I'd kind of like to get to heaven. And having that that cropping scheme would be just great. It'd be good for soil. It would be good for the environment. But I can't get the yields that I require that way yet. I was been looking at that. In fact, I was looking at that picture and saying, okay, what's missing here? What could happen?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, there isn't a whole lot I as a farmer can do there, although I might be contradicted by the next speaker. I don't know. And I'm going to continue trying. But if we could develop a ryegrass or find a ryegrass that had the homeopathic effects of rye, in other words, it killed the weeds that it grows in, but it didn't grow so high, it provided that much competition for the soybeans. It would be great. I have tried planting the rye later, and what happened was it rained for 3 weeks, and that was a bomb.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in other words, if you're going to plant them at different times, you run the risk that weather is going to kill the project.
Gotcha. There's a couple of questions.
Is that clear?
Yep. Thank you for elaborating on that. So there's a question from Cindy. She said, is the hybrid rye available as organic?
It's available as non-GMO. I cannot say it's available as organic, but yeah, I think it is. I'm almost sure it is. The people at Albert Lee Seed are presenting it. I think that was one of the best presentations I've ever heard. Albert Lee put on a workshop, and they had a PhD in agronomy and a PhD in animal science. And they told us the animal science and the agronomy of hybrid rye, you know, when to plant it, how thick to plant it, how to feed it, what animal to feed it to, is wonderful.
Okay.
And I think that hybrid rye has the potential to become our third crop.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the next question was from Ori, and she said, do you sell any hybrid rye?
No. That's one major disadvantage, and I think that it's really important that we keep on planting non-hybrid rye or variety not stated or whatever it is, so we don't lose, you know, like we virtually have in corn and soybeans and so forth. There's a place for that rye as well. The hybrid rye, though, provides you with a crop and an income, which is also desirable.
Okay. A question from me. So how long have you been using the flaming on your field?
I think we started about 2014.
Okay. And would that be around the same time that you sold your rotary hoe?
Yes. Very close. I mean, we did that experiment the first year because Brian was saying, hey, this flamer really works. And I was saying, well, now everybody uses a rotary hoe and everybody can't be wrong, right? And I won't say about everybody, but we decided to flame.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Wayne, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation and sharing with us your insights on your organic farming. We really appreciate it. You guys, if there's any other questions that come in for Wayne, be sure to add them in the chat box. Yes, thank you so much. And now we are ready to move forward with Scott's presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Oh, you know what? There's another question that came in for you. It says, how do you terminate the rye soybeans?
Hey, Olga, repeat. You got a big echo.
Yeah, Scott is.
I'll shut my sound off for you.
Yeah. Wayne, do you want to answer that question for? Oh, you are on mute. Here, let me unmute you. Just 1 minute. 1 minute. You're on mute. I will ask you to unmute. Just
Unmute.
unmute. Here you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm ready. Do you have the question though? I didn't hear it.
Yes, the question is, how do you terminate the rye in soybeans?
We have been disking it down. It takes a good disc if you're trying to go shallow and disc it down. If it follows corn though, it's really nice to get it down just enough at least so that you can level out the rows in the corn. We terminate it. We terminate it between 8 and 12 inches high. In other words, if you say that, oh, well, it's 12 inches high, we'll let it get a little higher. First thing you know, you've got a disaster. So it's better to do it early than late, if you're getting late in the year anyway. For that reason, you never know when it's going to rain, and it grows like crazy once it starts to gain height. I plant it in the spring because it does not, what's the word, anyway, it doesn't send up a stem. If you plant winter rye in the spring, late enough so that the weather does not turn below freezing.
Okay, and then Lynn asked, have you used the burn down product?
No, not organic. I have not used an organic burn down product.
Okay, all right. Well, I think that's all the questions. If there's any more questions that pop in, we'll wait till the end of the presentation. We'll give Scott the opportunity to present now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, as I said, we're down here in Fayette County, just about 45 minutes south of Wayne and his farm. We have a little bit different type of farm. Instead of more row crops and chickens, we have dairy livestock replacements, a few pigs, a few goats, and row crop corn, soybeans, wheat, barley.
And Scott, we don't see your presentation yet.
You don't see it yet?
No, all we're seeing is your desktop background.
Okay.
So you can
Here, I'll
unshare
do
your
this.
screen.
I'll do this.
Yeah. There.
You got it now? All right.
Yep.
All right. My grandfather bought this farm in 1964. He was the first one to farm this farm, fence row to fence row. He tiled it and put in, took out sloughs and old fences, and that was the first time in 1964. My dad bought another farm in 1982, which doubled the acreage of this farm to 360 acres, roughly 300 acres. And then today we farm 911 acres of crop ground rented and owned of variable soil types. 816 is certified organic, and 95 will finish their last year of transition this year. We have 185 cow dairy with replacements. And this is my family and my wife and I, my 4 kids, and my folks are in the picture with us with the cows there. My dad's recently retired, or semi-retired, and he still helps here on the farm. He helped me through the transition and farm a little bit with me organically for the last 5 or 6 years. I guess I want to say that I guess I'm a 3rd generation chemical addict. My grandfather, he was the one that started. He's an early adopter of chemicals. You know, atrazine came out. He really enjoyed that product. He thought it did a good job. And as we evolved, we kept keeping up with the times as far as being on the conventional side. We went to no-till, which was 100% sprays, GMOs, chemical fertilizers. We had a full team of enablers, our local agronomists, the seed dealers, the vets, the older generations, neighbors, etc. It's just, you get in a system and it's hard to get out. So I guess that's why I would call it my chemical addiction. I also, went to college and got a degree there that said that this is the way to farm, and didn't offer any other thoughts on the matter. Why did we switch? I guess from doing some long-term financial planning, looking at what capacity of the farm financially would look like, and realizing that we would have most likely have a better future if we switched to organic. I became uneasy with the prescription system. You go to the co-op and they tell you exactly what you're going to use before you even had a problem, and some of that kind of just got to be uncomfortable at times. We started having some issues with cow health, although that they said there were no adverse effects to the GMOs and the Roundups and other chemical sprays you're using, along with fungicides and herbicides. But it was kind of hard to explain things. Sometimes you'd have cows that were healthy and then they would just crash. The market volatility, everybody knows that's one year you'd have $8 or $5 or $8 corn, the next year you'd be down to $3. It's just same with the milk market. You'd be sending $14 milk, and then the next year you'd be $25 milk, and it's hard to put together a balance sheet and a cash flow with those kinds of things. The soil health, looking at what our soil was doing and where we were going. We were no-tilling, so we were doing some good things there, but we were still using chemical sprays and disrupting the soil biology with the fertilizers and chemicals we were putting on them. It's conventional farming right now is, you kill everything, and everything from fungus, the bacteria, the weeds. If it's not a clean field, nobody really wants to deal with that anymore. If there's a weed in the field, you're not a good farmer. We also see the pink, green, blue, and purple seed. Being a father of 4 and remembering as a kid, you'd see those things in the yard, and I could just imagine our little kids, you know, when you dump the bags in the planter, that, you know, you're gonna spill some, and I was so hesitant to have that stuff on the farm. That's some pretty heavy duty insecticide we're putting on there, you know, the ponchos and the cruisers, and on and on and on. And then I also had some mentors that, you know, I wasn't organic at the time, but we had friends that I thought a lot of. I still do. And, you know, I was close enough to them that I could look behind and around the tree at them and see what they were doing. And so they got me thinking about what the possibilities were as an organic farmer. And they're some of the biggest reasons we switched. So our farm philosophy today is, and our mission is to produce safe and reliable and sustainable food products in nature's image. We don't grow it, don't buy it. You know, trying to grow your own fertilizer, your own nutrients, and leave it better than you found it. The recipe that we're following right now is put armor on the soil, keep your soil covered as much as you can throughout the year. You know, if you have a living root in your soil, you're releasing root exudates, feeding the soil biology. The soil biology in the soil ends up to being about the equivalent weight of 2 elephants per acre. You want to create plant available nutrients. The only way you can do that is get your soil water nutrient cycle working for you. And then thoughtful soil disturbance. No more prescriptions. It's a field by field basis. If we need to do some, try to do it as shallow as we can to do the job we need to do, and that takes some trial and error there. But it's after a couple of years, I think you can get it figured out pretty well. We're looking at diverse cover crop mixes, trying to grow different seed types, root types, plant types, to create the best, touch the most soil in the profile. You look at a forest, you don't just see tall trees, you see undergrowth, the brush, the scrub brush, the grasses, all the way up to the big hardwoods. We're trying to limit the kill factor. As far as, you know, there's no seed treatments in organic, but you still have the capacity to spray your hays. So we're trying to use our nutrients, get our soils working and healthy, so we don't have that disease factor develop in our crops. We also want to using interseeded cover crops and cover crops to create competition for the unwanted weeds. Rye is a tremendous suppressor of giant ragweed, and anytime you can plant a cover crop, it is taking the place of a weed. The diverse crop rotations, we had typically been a corn, hay, soybean rotation, and now we're looking up to 5 or 6 years in a rotation with different crops. And then the diverse cover crop mixes and relay crops to match our system and to help with managing weeds and also growing crops. And it seems to be working, or at least seems like it's working for us. The biggest thing is when you're organic, I think you have to have multiple plans. It's unlike your conventional farming when you can go out there and you can spray the weed from half-inch tall to 6 or 8 inches tall. When Mother Nature decides that it's going to start raining and you get 9 inches of rain, and this is a terrace, a 6-foot terrace that's running over. It's got that much water behind it, and it doesn't drain that much area. So you have those rain events, and when you're supposed to be cultivating, you want to be doing, your cultivation, and you end up waiting 2-3 days or 10 days longer than you want to because it keeps raining. You end up having your pig weeds and water amps. So you have to have plan B, which was go in there with a flamer and take it out. And then after you do a good job flaming, you realize the ditch is on fire, and you have to have the bucket brigade to put out the fire. So it's not your typical go and spray 100 acres in a half hour and move on to the next thing. So we've added oats into our rotation the last couple of years. As we get in farther into our organic farming practices and utilizing that as a cash crop, a forage crop, and we underseed everything with clover. As you can see, we take our oats off in July if we're going to combine them and sell them as food grade to grain millers right now. And then we wait, 45 to 60 days later, and you can see the tractor, you're going to have a good crop of hay out there. So that puts you into early September. And then you can see there that another week or so, the regrowth on that clover is a good start for the following corn crop or whatever crop you're going to put behind there. It also suppresses the weeds. If you can see that gap right in the middle of that lighter color there, where we drove too wide with the drill. There's weeds in there. So it's a tremendous weed suppressor, and those clover crops are great for the soil. We use different livestock manures to fertilize our ground and above, in addition to the clover, especially if we're going to a corn crop. To get enough units of nitrogen on there, we have to use livestock manures, chicken manure, dairy manure. And unfortunately, this tractor had to be taught how to lead. It just wasn't being very good for us that day. And but you had results from those cover crops or alfalfa fields. To see that long taproot there, that's probably almost a 20-inch taproot there, and really gets a spot for that soil and water to infiltrate, air infiltration, and that's a tremendous asset to work into a soil. Here you can see we're swathing our oats in the one in the left picture there, and the next picture over is a relay crop of wheat and beans, which we started doing this last year, and it seems like that might work pretty well for us. It's one thing about the beans in a relay crop situation. We plant the wheat early, like kind of as early as you can, and then we tine weeded it I think about 10 days later, and then planted the beans first thing. So they were planted about May, around the first week of May, second week of May. We planted beans into those after we tine weeded it, and that's the last thing we did to it. And that turned out pretty well for us as our first year to do that. And the yields, I ended up cutting the tops of the beans off a little bit because of the way they came through the rows in the wheat. They wouldn't match up with our pushers on our head. So we ended up cutting some tops off. I think we lost some yield there. So we're going to do a few things different next year. But as far as combining those beans later, there's no rocks and no ridges in that field. So you can cut that field however, which way direction you wanted to cut it. The next picture we have, when you decide you are organic, or going to take the organic pledge, you can't just go to the grocery store anymore and buy feed or bedding for your cattle. So that was an interesting aspect to try to come up with all the bedding sources we need in our dairy barn for calves and other livestock. So you see the picture of there, we actually chop our oat straw and put it in a bag, and we use that as bedding for our cows in the freestall mats. The next picture is a picture of summer mix. There's 13 different species in here. And it was initially intended just to choke out weeds after like a small grain crop, which it did a very good job. It's really aggressive, really grows well. But the diversity in there is tremendous. When you diversify your crop rotation, the polycultures you have, you also bring in other nutrients and minerals from those plants. And that is probably the best one-shot feed that we make. It is a tremendous feed for the heifers and dry cows. It's well balanced, a lot of minerals in there, and is a tremendous crop to grow on an organic farm. The other thing we've done is grow small grains together with, so right here you see a picture of oats grown with wheat and peas. That's kind of a little bit of a trick to get that to line up. You typically want to go with a later oat and an earlier wheat, and then the peas will kind of fall in there here and there. But that's almost a complete feed. That's like a 13% protein feed. It works well for calves and any of the livestock on the farm is a very good feed for any of those. We also have, these are some of our livestock we have on the farm. The cows are out grazing in pastures. I don't like to have my pastures real short when we graze. I like to have a longer growth. It keeps the roots under that pasture, and it'll last the whole season. If you graze like the New Zealanders, where you're cutting your grass short, when the July-August heat gets here, you won't have any pasture, and this will allow you to keep your cows on pasture if you cut it or let them graze it taller. One thing about when you graze it taller, when they walk over it, they will actually create a mat. That bigger stuff will be bent over and stay down, versus some of the smaller stuff that doesn't get bent over. It'll actually regrow more uneven by not having a taller pasture when you graze. The pigs, I was on the farm here. We just started raising pigs here a couple of years ago, and the reason we did is we decided that we couldn't find a local source for organic hogs, and we decided that we would start raising them for our family, and they have done very well for us on the pasture and in the winter through the winter. The other picture you see here is a project of our daughters, and we have discovered that, well, anybody that is organic doesn't have the capacity to spray around their farmsteads and control the yard weeds. And so we bought 6 goats, and they do a tremendous job of eating anything you can imagine, except they don't like the velvet leaf very well, but they will eat them if they get hungry enough. But they're a tremendous asset. That you couldn't see those goats in there when we first turned them in there. They will eat up about 6 foot tall. They'll stand on their back legs and eat around tires and equipment that's just kind of sitting around. So I really enjoy having those around the farm to keep things looking nice. We also started interseeding our corn crop with a 6-way mix to try to pull up more nutrients and also to outcompete weeds. I looked at what the weeds we were having and tried to match the root types of those weeds to the root types of my cover crop interseeding mix, thinking that if I had my choice, I would rather pick my weed than one that won't compete with my corn versus one that would. And as you see, this is probably a week or so, or week to 2 weeks later after we interseeded this into the corn crop. And they'll stretch up pretty good and create some pretty good cover. You go down the next picture where you can see them really elongating as the corn canopy closes. And then in the next picture, you see them that they're kind of laying on the ground, and you think, oh man, they're not going to be there at all, and they're just going to wither and die. But I think that's a good thing, because as they wither and die, they start taking the nutrients that they had pulled up, and those are plant available nutrients. As they fall down, wither and die, those nutrients go back into the soil profile and are readily available to the corn plant. The other thing that I noticed is that as those plants get less and less sunlight, they become more and more stressed. Well, when they're more and more stressed, then you'll have the bugs will attack them, and not the corn crop. And then you get all your beneficials. This is how we interseeded our cover crop during cultivation. And you'll see in the next picture, you see the holes in the leaves of the brassicas there that have been attacked by the bugs. I've never seen honeybees in our field of corn, but this is buckwheat interseeded in our corn crop. It's excellent at controlling those iron blight areas where you miss with a cultivator. They fill in really nice there. And in the fall, you'll see something like this. As the corn crop starts to decompose, you'll have this in there, and it'll continue clear in the late fall until it gets down to like 24 degrees. The next picture you'll see is the spot where I missed with turning on the seeder. This is in the spring, and this is ryegrass. This came up in the spring, and is a tremendous cover crop there. Here's a picture of beginning of our interseeded soybeans and barley, or interseeded soybeans and wheat. And you can see the weed competition there is just probably an inch tall, maybe under a foot tall beans, which is a pretty significant advantage to the beans. We've also used rolled down rye, nose-tilled into the rye, a bean crop. And this is very good at protecting the soil. When you have that 9-inch rain, you can see that these beans were this big at the same time we had that 9-inch rain, and you pick up that mat and there was no soil disturbance underneath that rainfall, under the soil underneath that rainfall. Here you can see erosion from a fall seeded rye crop where we chopped corn silage versus where we didn't have any, put a check strip in to see how much it was actually helping us. And we decided we weren't going to have any more check strips anymore because of the erosion. The other picture is outwintering heifers on some fall or some winter or summer annual pasture, and we keep them out there. I think it was middle of December before we brought them back in and put them in the lots. There's a few things you can't unlearn. Things I've learned, like Wayne, we've had some things that you just can't say anything about. But the first time my brother-in-law ate organic lettuce at our field day, he didn't have a digestive upset. Eating out, my wife, she has a sensitive stomach, and as soon as we started eating organic, her stomach problems went away. When we switched feed to organic feed the first year, our 2T feed, or actually our 3T feed, from conventional, our cows started cycling better. I'd have cows that started coming to heat on their own instead of giving shots. I don't like seeing the little yellow plains. We seem to have not been able to grow corn the last couple of years. At least the neighbors haven't been able to without the yellow plains flying around. When I was a kid, I never saw a yellow plain. The mycorrhizae fungi I think are very important to truck nutrients around the soil profile, but yet we're putting fungicides and insecticides on our corn seed and other seeds we use to grow as a conventional grower. And I think that's pretty counterproductive. If you're trying to create a mycorrhizal fungi relationship with your seed early on, that's counterproductive, I believe. You can grow corn in an organic system, and you can grow good corn. I was told that our yields were too good, basically, about our third year in, and that he told me that it was a 32% that had up to a 5-year carryover on our nitrogen. I was talking to a guy and he just didn't believe our yields were that good on the organic side. And he told me it still must be that 32% carrying over. I wish I would have known that a couple years ago when we were conventional, we had that much carryover on 32%. Over application of nutrients is counterproductive to your soils for either fertilizer or manures. And then the coffee shop talk, you're going to get talked about when you switch to organic. I wish I would have known to do a better job of managing the carbon, use cover crops early. I know that now that people are very willing to help producers who are switching to organic. The importance of mycorrhizae fungi. If you're starting your crop plan, start from scratch. Don't take your conventional ways with you. Visit other farmers and other farms. They're willing to help. Weeds will indicate which problems you have in your soils and have a plan B. There's this is the reason why we're doing this, to keep the next generation of farmers going. And if you have any questions at this time, I'll entertain those. And then this is a clip I was in a book that really hit home for me. If you guys can take that while we're answering some questions, maybe.
Yeah, I like the quote is from Sir Albert Howard. So I have a question for you, Scott. You mentioned that you had some mentors that influenced you to become organic. Who are they, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, I've had several over the years. And you know, the closest one to me right now would be Wayne. I was out at his place a year or two ago talking about a flamer. The Beards from north of Decorah and Hagemans from up by the Kalona area. They've all been tremendous assets into helping me get started on the organic path.
Excellent. And then you said that you interseeded the wheat in the corn. What was that wheat?
We relay cropped our wheat and soybeans.
Wheat. It was wheat.
Wheat and soybeans, yeah. And then we also interseeded cover crops like buckwheat and ryegrass and clover and some kind of I can't remember what the other 3 or 4 of them are, but several other different things, broadleafs and warm season annuals and stuff like that.
And then a question from Gary. On the organic pigs, how do you market those? Is processing an issue?
Well, we don't have them certified organic when we sell them. Or when they go through the locker, they're no longer certified organic. Basically, we sell them as a transitional animal and through the locker. And we work with a locker that knows that our pigs are organic when they get there, and they treat them as best they can. If a person gets cuts, basically cuts them up as cuts, they're about as close to organic as you can get without having them certified organic. But we do need, the only way we could sell them as organic is if we would work with the locker under our certificate to get those pigs in their processes that they use to process the pigs organic.
Gotcha. Just looking through the questions right now. Don't think there are any more. Are there any final questions for Scott, guys? Yes, thank you, Scott, for your wonderful presentation. This was so wonderful to hear from you and learn more about your operation. Thank you to all of the speakers today. We are really grateful for all all of your knowledge and being part of our Growing Organic Expertise workshop. What I will do after we are done here today is I will send out a short survey to everyone that attended. We utilize the survey responses for our grant reporting. So would really appreciate if you could please share your feedback with us. And as always, oh, there's a question that came in for you, Scott. It says the meat processor would have their own certificate, right?
Well, there's two ways you can do that. You can either have the processor certified under your certificate, which means that they can only process your animals, or they could go get their own certificate and then they could process anybody's organic animals.
Yeah, from my understanding, there's not a lot of processing facilities that are equipped to handle the organic livestock production here. So I know there is Story City Locker, but that obviously is far away from where you live.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys, like I said, I'll send everyone a survey. Please share your feedback with us. And thank you again from the bottom of my heart for everyone that attended. And then I will also actually be posting this on our YouTube channel, and I'll share the link with you guys. So feel free to share along with friends or anyone that may benefit from this workshop. Okay, thank you guys, and hope you have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, it was great.